Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new, my name is Faye, I also go by Faye. Today I have a special guest. I'm going to let her introduce herself really quickly. So tell us a little about yourself, like how you got started, what you do, your name.
Hi, I'm Janelle King. I'm a registered nurse. I've been a nurse for about 6 or 7 years. I primarily work in the area of public health.
So my first question is, where did you go to school? So like an undergrad, university, the nursing program?
So my venture into nursing is not like linear. I got so many degrees, my degrees got degrees, so.
We like that.
My husband always asks me. So like my career actually as a nurse started probably about 6 years ago. I was in public health for a long time. And I got bored with just doing a lot of the policy work, so I decided I'm going back to school to become a nurse. So I did it kind of the non-traditional route. I actually started an associate's degree program in Columbus, Ohio. That's where I lived for about 13 years. Did the associate's program in nursing, got a job in nursing, and went back to finish up the bachelor's degree in nursing.
And you're not originally from the U.S., so tell me about your background. So like where you were born, where you were raised, your family, are you married, got kids?
So I'm originally from Toronto, Canada. Go Raptors!
You guys are winning. You're really good.
Yes. You're going to win this year. Yes. Born and raised in Toronto, Canada. Went to school in Windsor, Ontario. And then I migrated over to the United States when I went for a master's. I had a master's in public health, so I lived in Toledo, Ohio for about 2 to 3 years, and then moved to Columbus, Ohio. So I lived there for, like 13 years. So yes, I am married. I've been married for almost 9 years, and I have one child that's more than enough.
So this leads to my next question. How do you balance your career and family life and your child?
Dude, it's hard. It's so hard. Some days are better than others. I can kind of go with the flow. Like in my mind, I have my own set schedule in terms of like, okay, like work today, so I'm going to work in my like 9 to 5. I started a blog, so that takes up some time too. I usually do that in the evening and nights after I finish cooking, putting her to sleep, giving her some attention. So it's kind of just like making a schedule. Most of the stuff I do is during the weekend when I have a little bit more free time, but just making a schedule and hope it works out most days. My husband is very supportive. I can't say that. He's very supportive. So, he'll take her and entertain her for a couple hours while I sit and kind of do some stuff.
So did you always know you wanted to go into this career path?
No.
What led to that?
Not at all. Not at all. So when I set out as a young individual for schooling, like I actually wanted to go into sports management, so that's what my first degree is in. So I thought I was going to be with the Raptors and in the front organizations and all that good stuff. And then I ended up, after I graduated, I ended up getting a job in community health. It was like this contract position for 1 year. I started working with kids, and I just really enjoyed it. So that led me to go to public health, go to school for public health. University of Toledo was willing to pay for my education, so I said, of course I'm going to come. And I graduated from there and got a job at Bowling Green State University, where I was doing a lot of assessments and planning and training. From there, I moved to Columbus, Ohio. I got a job with the state health department, and it was a really fantastic job. I was able to do so much. I had a great boss. She let me do so much. I got to do creative things. She let me travel. I got to run meetings, like all these important things that you go to school for. And then I moved up in a position where it was like a supervisory role. However, I'm just not, I didn't like it. Like, I didn't like supervising people. I didn't like putting in the fires. The policy work was interesting, but it wasn't meaningful for me. So that's when I decided to go back to school and to become a nurse. Probably 8 years into my public health career, I was like, I'm a little bored. I'm going to go back to school and do this nursing thing. So that's how I kind of ended up here. I never in my wildest imagination did I think I was ever going to become a nurse.
That's kind of brave to go back to school. Like, how was that? Like, what was your thought process thinking, I'm going to go back and then study, take exams, do the whole thing?
Right. It was so interesting because it was either nursing or dietetics. For some reason, I was in those 2 areas. And then I kind of looked at the prerequisite in terms of like, okay, what is the quickest route? What do I have? And so I'm not spending my entire life doing this schooling thing. So the community college, Columbus State Community College, is actually where I got my first nursing degree. they took all my credits, and it was, I think I had to do like 3 additional credits to be able to apply to their program. So for me, I was like, well, that's a win for me. That's less schooling for me. It was difficult, you know, making that transition. I was still working full time and taking classes part time. So, you know, balancing my regular 9 to 5 and on top of, you know, coming home and studying. So yeah, it was some work.
What would you say some of the challenges you faced when doing that? You said you juggled having a full-time job and going back to school, and then anything else like socially as well?
Out of all of the degrees, I can say that nursing is very, very difficult. Like, you have to manage your time really well. It's very, very hard. You have, you know, the coursework that you have to do, but there's also like the clinical aspect. So I pretty much didn't have a social life for like 2 years. My friends would see me pop up in between my breaks, you know, with spring breaks or whatever breaks in between semesters, but it was just like studying all the time and going to clinicals with my other counterparts and studying some more. So you don't really have a social life, but the good thing about nursing, in my experience, like, I found a group of individuals. We were kind of all older. Nursing was the second career for most of us. So we kind of banded together and kind of made our own social groups and social outings by like studying together. That was my highlight for 2 years, just studying with other individuals.
And then what is your current job title now? Where do you work, and what's your day-to-day? So like from morning all the way to when you go to bed.
So in the mornings, I will wake up pretty early. I work in college health. So I work at one of the local colleges here I should say universities here in Atlanta, and I work in their student health center. So students will come in for their regular visits, like they'll come in for like physicals, STI testing, immunizations, allergy shots. My role primarily is giving allergy shots. I do a lot of immunizations. I do a lot of travel consults. So students who are going out of country will be visiting somewhere else. They come in, I talk to them about like, okay, here are your vaccine needs, here are like the medications, what are your medications if you need that, and send them on their way. I also help out with the physicians, like we'll do like pap smears, help them out with pap smears or STI testing, things of that nature. So I'm a registered nurse, but I guess I'm like an ambulatory nurse, I guess would be my title, because we kind of do a little bit of everything, yeah.
And then with that, like, with being in medicine and medical field, like, science is always changing.
Yeah.
Okay, so you always have to be on it, or do you just kind of like go with the flow and see what happens?
Well, the good thing about it is like the setting that I work in, like my director is pretty good at like allowing us to go to conferences and keeping us updated with information. We subscribe to a lot of different publications and stuff like that, so we keep abreast of kind of what's changing, what's new, what's going on. Our medical director is actually really good at that as well. So I don't think we're ever out of the loop in terms of like what's new and what's changing. There's enough brilliant minds in the clinic I work with for them to kind of bring that to light so we can make changes and adjust what we're doing.
That brings to my next topic. So you, besides being a nurse and having full-time job, being a mom, having a family, you also run a blog.
Yeah.
And I see you're very passionate on social media talking about sexual health, sexual awareness. Like, what brought you to that? Why do you have such a passion in spreading that awareness to, like, especially young people as well?
Yeah, so my second job out of nursing school was actually working in a teen health center. So I worked at a pediatric hospital, but they had their own teen-run centers. I worked with brilliant minds, three or four female physicians that's all they did. And these were like inner city girls, mainly girls that came in, and we would educate them about like STIs and give them prescriptions for medicine, and just like destigmatize a lot of the things surrounding sexual health, like correcting misinformation, and also providing them with like birth control options, like giving them pretty much like the gamut of birth control options and seeing what fit best for their lifestyle. So I think that's where that comes from, like just knowing that there's so much misinformation out there, just knowing that a lot of these, like, we need this information, a lot of stuff, a lot of people don't know because they just don't know. So that's where that stemmed from. And it gives me great passion because, I mean, sometimes I learn things and I gotta look up stuff and I'm like, what are you talking about?
Exactly.
So it keeps me on my toes.
What advice would you have for like your younger self, like coming into this industry and like things we should do differently, things kept the same, stuff like that?
I think, like with anything, like my journey kind of built on itself. Public health taught me a lot of like just the fundamental foundation things that I still use a lot of my public health background and foundation for my day-to-day things. One of the things I probably would have done differently, when I started my nursing career, we didn't have that bridge where you can go in from like becoming a nurse to becoming and be a nurse practitioner. So that didn't exist when I was doing it. So that's probably what I would have done differently. Instead of just stopping at the bachelor's level, I probably would have continued on. Not to say that I couldn't do it now, I'm just real lazy. But I would have continued on to become a nurse practitioner, I think, yeah.
Okay, so what would you say one difficulty is with your field? Like one part that's quite hard, and then we can move on to the positives.
I would say I've always done outpatient nursing, which means I've never worked in the hospital itself. And I know even with outpatient, it's just like the volume of patients. So like there's not enough staffing sometimes to take care of all the patients with all their different needs. So sometimes, a lot of times it will lead to burnout and you just not wanting to do anything because you're so overwhelmed. And a lot of it goes back to, money and staffing and things like that. But I think that's one of the negative things, and I don't know what the answer is. But I know there's legislations in different parts of the country about safe staffing ratios and making sure that, one nurse is not giving, let's say, like 10 patients to take care of in a shift, because it's not good for the patient and it's not good for the nurse either.
It can be overwhelming.
Oh, you done said it. Yes, very much overwhelming.
And then what positive would you say?
In my personal career, I think I've always had good relationships with medical professionals. So like physicians, nurse practitioners, medical assistants, like everybody has always been so willing and so generous with their time and just teaching. Because coming in as a second career, like it's very intimidating because, you're working with nurses who've done this forever and a day, or medical assistants who are just as skilled as nurses. In my personal journey, everybody has been always willing to teach me stuff, to stop and slow down and explain stuff, which I totally appreciate.
So my last question is, what, outside of your career, what are your other passions? Like, what do you enjoy doing? We already mentioned that you do blogging, social media, like sexual health awareness, but what else do you like to do?
I like to read. I'm very much introverted, so I like to read. I like to run, although like the hills here in Georgia, running outside is really no joke. What else do I like to do? Volunteer when I have time, go to church when I have time, sleep when I have time, the regular mommy things that we don't normally get to do.
Exactly.
So
thank you so much for being here with me, for sitting down talking to me. And you want to shout out your social media, your website, you can follow along.
Yes, please check out my website and my social media. I can be found at The Nurse Note, across all social medias, and then my website is thenursenote.com. You'll find great information about sexual and reproductive health.
Bye guys!